Welcome! In this video, we are going to go over a basic exercise that is going to be especially useful for any beginners so they can more easily understand hello so that you can more easily understand three-dimensional shapes and how they work. So to begin, we are going to use the marker pen, marker brush, and we're going to pick three colors that are about 80 or 70% cool gray, about 50%, and about 20-30%. And draw them on one layer in such a way that you get this, like, you see that they have this a bit of an opacity effect on them, so fill them in that they are fully colored, like to have the actual color in the middle. And then we're going to also add in our black. We're going to make a separate layer for line art, and we're going to have these color dots on a separate layer of their own. And for line art, we're going to we can use the same marker pen. You can press Ctrl plus Alt and drag with your mouse to scale the size of the brush. If you don't know, it's a pretty handy feature in Clip Studio Paint. And it seems our black was on the wrong layer, so let's fill that back in there and drag him up there. So, and now draw in kind of a loose round shape, something organic, just a blob. And here's a couple of examples, and you can make it look like pretty much anything you want. Just keep it simple for now. And then we're going to add in these cross contour lines. So imagine you're following the surface of the object you're drawing and faintly draw in both sides of the object. And then we go to the other direction and you start getting this kind of like a three-dimensional mesh. And it will become much easier for you to understand the actual shape you're looking at when you do this. And it's kind of like a 3D models mesh, or if you imagine like some thick ties in fishnet stockings, it essentially has the same effect. The shape becomes a lot easier to read. And this is an exercise that was originally made for like actual markers. So if you have marker pens and maybe a black pen for outlines, you could do this in real life on paper, pretty much with similar techniques. But here we're going to do it digitally. It should work fine enough. And we're going to make another layer for the value. So where we're going to color in the actual piece. And so we're going to pick a light source, just a single light source, maybe from somewhere along here. If you know more about light theory and reflected light and that kind of stuff, don't think about it too much. We want to keep things simple. So one light source, and we're going to imagine that the light is hitting our object from that specific direction. And then we're going to pick the lightest of our colors. You can use Alt and click to pick colors from the screen. If you need to set the tool from here to obtain display color, if you want to pick them from any layer, like it picks at the topmost layer, so we can be on another layer and then pick the color from there. So anyways, pick an area where you like imagine the light is hitting the most, and then leave that white and fill in the rest of the shape with this lightest gray color and marker. And my brush here is actually maybe a bit too small, so use as big of a brush as you can and do aggressive, like, but accurate, like relaxed, yeah, relaxed is a good word, relaxed swipes of color through the shape and follow kind of the direction. And then we pick the second gray and start imagining like, okay, which parts of this shape the light source from that angle isn't actually hitting, and start filling those in. Relax brush strokes, drag it through the shape. It doesn't have to be that clean. Just bring that bring the 3 dimensions in. And then with the darkest color, we imagine like, okay, where the light isn't hitting almost at all, or which surfaces are facing downwards, or that kinds of things, and start filling it in as well. If we put a bit of dark color here, it gives it kind of like a reflective look, and then we can alt-click and pick the white from here to like increase its size, so you can actually use like essentially any color on the screen. But yeah, if you zoom out, you start seeing like, okay, it kind of has a 3-dimensional shape. And then you can pick the colors in and lightly brush to kind of paint the edges of the different colored sections. Bring that, kind of like tidy it up. You don't have to, but yeah. It becomes kind of like this painting of shape. And maybe it should be a bit lighter there, a bit darker somewhere else, etc. And I'm going to like add a bit of like a cast shadow thing here. You don't have to do that. It's kind of like, yeah. Do whatever feels good. And yeah, you could use full black to like, but yeah, that's not so important. The important part is like the 3-dimensional shape. Pick the lightest color, fill in everything except the areas that are in direct light. So if the light direction is here, we imagine it. Then with the second lightest color, the middle tone, we go for areas that are actually in shadow or fully in shadow. And, well, not necessarily but fully in shadow, but yeah. The areas that the light isn't hitting directly. And then with the last color, we put essentially everything that is in even more shadow. And in this kind of a method, you can start getting like this quick exercises that help you understand 3-dimensional forms on actual objects. And now I'm going to kind of like speed up the process here, and so you can going to do this couple of examples, and after that I'll show you some more examples and I'll guide you through them as well. But yeah, for here, like you can see, like there's this kind of like a sharp edge. Well, not sharp edge, but it's kind of a more blocky one. So the darkest shadow is actually most of that other side. But yeah, and I hope this exercise is helpful to you. Take it easy, try it out, have fun with it, be relaxed, just do the colors like swish, swish, swish. And then look at it, zoom out. Zooming out usually helps. Think about, okay, maybe there should be more light there, and then go back, fill in some of that. If you're using actual real-life markers, you obviously can't go back and add more white. Or at least you can, but it's not easy. So if you're using actual markers, be more precise, think a bit more what you're doing, and go pew pew, light, pew pew, middle tone, pew pew, the darkest one, and then you can maybe a bit blend the edges. But yeah, so here I'm going to fast forward a bit. You can, it doesn't, so this whole video doesn't take so long, and the process is the same, whatever your shape is. Take a look at your cross contour lines and try to get a feel for the 3-dimensional shape. If the cross contour lines feel a bit difficult to do, just relax, and you can be pretty imaginative with the actual cross contour lines that you do. And it doesn't have to like, you can essentially invent the shape as you go when you draw the cross contour lines there. And they essentially, even if the cross contour lines don't end up as you imagined they would, it's kind of like a happy accident, as someone would maybe put it. And okay, be like, okay, this is the shape. Now, how does it actually go now from here? And if you're actually like designing something, this can also be a helpful step to understand what kind of a shape you're doing. And like you can see here from these examples, you can do really wide stuff. You can actually change the angle, yeah, just the angles of the shape, so it can't run away from you. Change the angle of the shape and everything like that. But yeah, the process stays the same. You can add fins, and you can do this like cross-hatching shadings. So you can understand better the directions of your shapes, and essentially whatever helps you understand the initial three-dimensionality. And then just go to town with the markers. Consider the direction of the light. Keep it same for all the... Well, actually, you don't have to. Like, I would recommend keeping it the same at start, but then changing the direction of the light and doing other exercises from that direction might be helpful for further understanding of the three-dimensional shapes. In that one, I added kind of like a small divot in the middle, so it becomes this kind of like a, I don't know, rubber boat kind of a shape. And if you turn off the lines, you can kind of like see, okay, how it is going. And in this one, I gave it this kind of like a fin in the middle, so the edge of the fin would be in light, but then the other side of it would be in more shadow. But then we have again this side that is upwards, so the upward side has more light, and then the shape what's the word? It turns away from the light. English isn't my native language, so words are sometimes hard. But yeah, the shape turns away from the light, so it becomes darker again. If we consider things like bounce light and stuff like that, then maybe like the surfaces that are actually against the ground would get reflected light from the ground on those surfaces, and they would become lighter again. But don't think about anything like that. Just concentrate on that one light source. How does it affect this shape? And you do this exercise a couple of times, and it will start help you get understanding of three-dimensional shapes. And this kind of like organic exercise can be helpful for imagining like the shapes of anatomy. Anatomy, for example, if you like drawing people. And if you do more rigid studies, you can do this essentially with boxes as well. Boxes, and then you add other boxy shapes there, and that might be more useful if you're doing more like industrial design kind of things, hard surface stuff, boxes, books, things like that. And yeah, in this last one, I'm going to add a bit of like funky details to the shape. So we have kind of like an air vent at the front, and then there's like lids on the side. And maybe like here, my drawing process is actually starting to go like, well, like big swipes, follow through the shape. It gives the nice energy if you actually like follow through the ending of the shape, like the behind, like zoom, it gives a bit of movement to it. And then this vent shape. So it's going to be a bit more fiddly, but yeah, like the, again, like the surface here, it is pointing towards the light, it is upwards, so it becomes the lightest. Then we have this wall here, which might be a bit darker. And then the rest of it is like, it vanishes into the dark void that's in there, so it becomes the darkest. And you can add these kinds of shapes as well, start adding like a bit there, whatever. And if you do like lids like this, you can do like just like a dark circle, and then think about the light direction of the light, and then like add the light circle on the opposite side. And if you do like this exercise and just add like bits and bobs, like the stuff like this to the shape, it might actually start being useful to look up some kind of like a photo reference. Like, okay, maybe like how does it, but you don't need like, it might be if you keep it simple enough, you should be able to deduce that you, anyways, if you want to rotate the canvas, it might be make it easier, like that was wrong. If you want to rotate the canvas, what you do is you shift and space and drag. So maybe like if you rotate the canvas, it might be easier to do strokes in another direction. And if you do rotate it again, it might be easier to do the strokes in another direction again. Here I'm adding a bit of light to the lip of the intake, so it kind of like turns up there and that kind of stuff. And this exercise might be useful for taking real life objects like a pencil sharpener and trying to do that with this. And yeah, that's it in its most simplicity. I thank you. I hope this exercise has been useful to you. Try it out. It's a very basic exercise. And yeah, tell me how it goes in the comments below. If you think this was useful, subscribe and like the video, so that way I'll know that these are actually helpful to someone, and maybe I'll make another video in the future about maybe tools, maybe another basic exercise like this. Who knows? But yeah, thank you and bye.